Let's meet Chester R Connell, a seasoned radio broadcaster. A man proud to be from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, an island nation in the Atlantic Ocean. He describes himself as a work in progress, as he seeks to become a better person in every way. Co-author of the book Beyond Survival Advantage Server.
Thank you, Chester, meeting up with me, and today we are going to have a conversation about you, your book, your life in the past.
Absolutely.
Shall we start from your childhood?
Yes, that's a good place to start. My childhood was actually quite blissful, I have to say. I grew up on a banana plantation in the Caribbean, in St. Vincent. And we lived, my father, my mother, and myself mostly. And then later on, my younger brother and sister came along. And there was no one else, no other neighbor, no one else but trees and coconuts. So cocoa trees. So it was and forests. So it was an absolutely idyllic life.
In the last meeting, I guess you mentioned about working as a radio jockey. What inspired you into radio jockey?
I was looking for a job. I had no idea that I was, had a good voice. Looking for a job. I'm carefree, as you are at 18. And then I saw this, I applied to the banks, did what everybody did. And I saw a job opening at a radio station. It was the only radio station in the island at the time, government-owned radio station. Just to give you a short history of that,
right.
There's a group of islands called the Windward Islands in the Caribbean. Most of the Caribbean was colonized by Britain, and they set up a radio station system called the Windward Islands Broadcasting System, WIBS, of which St. Vincent was one of the stations. When the islands became independent, when we gained independence from Britain, St. Vincent in 1979, each island attained independence, and that station became part of the government. I applied for the job, not knowing really that I had the skills, but I got the job.
So when you moved to Taiwan, is there anything you faced like a challenge in Taiwan when you initially arrived in Taiwan?
No. There's all the challenges in my life, and I think this comes from being steeped in a belief in a higher power that my parents instilled in me. So when I came to Taiwan, as a matter of fact, I needed to leave St. Vincent because I was just going out of my mind with boredom, because I had come back to St. Vincent after going to Barbados. Because I left St. Vincent being a popular media person. I left St. Vincent being, remember, one radio station. You're a big fish in a small pond. So I'm on the radio, and anybody who's on the radio would be popular. It's the only radio station. So I was known by probably hundreds of thousands of people, because the radio station also was able to broadcast to other islands. Ireland and Russia would send us postcards. Oh, I heard your program, So, as I said, I lived this life where...
How did you feel when you received the postcards from different parts of the world?
Well, it was exciting, but it wasn't particularly, I didn't get on any ego trip, which is something I give thanks to my parents. But to answer your question, I came to Taiwan. A friend of mine who was in media as well in St. Vincent had moved to Taiwan many years before. And she is a trailblazer, and she was a trailblazer, and she is a leader, and she was here. And I said, I need to get out of St. Vincent. What can I come to Taiwan and work there? And she said, just come, you just come, and we'll sort it out when you come. We'll find a job. And that's the kind of person she is. She's just a leader and a thinker and a person who gets things done. So I said, that's it. And within 3 months of that conversation, that email, I was in Taiwan.
I have something of you here.
What?
I think this must be familiar, right?
Oh, yes. What's that?
You have written this book in 2023. People are still talking in 2025.
Well, it took quite some time. My co-author and I, Michael Nanton. It's really about Michael, and that's how it started. I went to Michael probably almost 15 years ago and said, "Hey, Michael, I need to do a documentary on you, a radio TV documentary, because that's what I knew. That's my lane. That's what I trained in. That's my profession." So Michael is He was then and is now still involved in tennis. At 75, he'll be 75 as we film this. He's going to be 75 in a few weeks. And he's been playing tennis for over 50 years. He's a trailblazer in tennis, and he knows a lot about the game. And he played a major role in the game, in the expansion of the game, in the teaching of the game. He's taught around the world as an international tennis coach. So here's a Vincentian, that is somebody from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who made and is still making a great contribution. And I said, I need to document you, as that's what I do, right? And he said, at first he said, no, because, you know, he's a very humble person, and no documentary. But I hounded him and, you know, stalked him, and he moved to Canada from St. Vincent, and I wrote him an email, Michael, what about this documentary? I want this documentary. And finally he said, tell you what, why don't we write a book? And I said, well, a book, okay, but that's not the plan here. I don't know anything about it. I'm not an author per se, you know. And he said, let's do a book. I said, okay, let's do a book. And then he says, well, you're going to have to write something in the book. I said, again, that's not the plan. It's not about me. It's about you and tennis. But anyway, being the person he is, he's a great mentor to me. And he said, let's write a book. And because of Michael Nanton, my co-author, this book has Michael Nanton and Chester Connell as authors. So it's about tennis and about Michael Nanton.
I have read your book, and each word of it has a deep meaning.
Well, thank you.
I want to listen from you why people need to refer to this book.
Well, let's say, you know.
I know why one should read this book.
Yes.
But still, I want to know from you.
Okay. You know, everybody will not pay attention to everything you say. You know, children don't pay attention to their parents. They only get a minuscule amount of what their parents have to offer them and teach them. So it's the same thing. The book is intended for two sets of people, really. People who play tennis, that is people all over the world, because tennis is played by millions of people. And a much smaller segment, Caribbean people, people who are from the archipelago, but also the diaspora, people who live in various parts of the world. So it's a book of instruction, not instruction in the narrow sense of the word, instruction in the larger sense of the word. It's about life. Michael uses his life, which was the intention of my documentary initially, to use his life and his experiences, which are varied and vast. He's traveled all through the Caribbean, he's lived all through the Caribbean. And so I wanted to bring that out and to share that with Caribbean people, because, you know, we're living in a time in the 21st century when a lot has been forgotten of even recent history in the Caribbean, where people don't even know what a mango tree might look like. So Michael brings that in this book, where he shares so much about not only tennis, but also about life in the Caribbean, and why we should value what we have in the Caribbean.
So while I was looking at your book, I was wondering, like, why Beyond Survival at Advantage Server? Why you choose this title for the book?
Well, the book went through, the title of the book, choosing the title of the book, that went through several iterations. It was not that title at first, it was several other titles. Advantage server is, of course, using a tennis term. Advantage to the server or advantage to the receiver when you're scoring in tennis. So the umpire will say advantage server, advantage receiver, and that person gets the point. There's also the meaning of serving in life, which is the bigger picture, not only about tennis but about serving. The advantage goes to the person who serves. That's the underlying message of the title.
Sister, could you share something that you most like from your book?
Well, of course, I like everything in the book. All 500 plus pages of it.
Yeah, of course, I do love it, because every word has deep meaning.
Yes, as I said before, this book is Michael's story about his life and about tennis. Here you go. On page 54, the stench, when analyzed, does make a lot of sense. I am paraphrasing Bob Marley, Robert Nesta Marley, who's from the Caribbean, probably our most famous Caribbean person, who said, when you analyze the stench, to me it makes a lot of sense. That's a quote from one of his songs. And to me, the stench is the the parts of our past as individuals, as persons, as cultures, as peoples of the world. There's a lot, that we need to just get rid of. Just like how the body gets rid of waste material every day, we need to get rid of waste memories that do not serve us. Things we did when we were children, things we learned when we were children. Hatred is learned, racism is learned, and we need to just disabuse ourselves of those notions. So the 500 years of historical Eurocentric driven trauma, like uncollected garbage heaped upon previous colorful plastic bags, fetid piles, has formed the collective trauma, rotting, decomposing, and passed on as transgenerational trauma, generation after generation after generation. There is usually no recognition by oneself, personally, or by others professionally, of the trauma. There is therefore no psychological transformation or personal private progress. The disgust is simply buried undiscussed. Thus, unrecognized by most of us of the Caribbean, the unconscious response, "I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine," is simply a superficial survival tool that transports us emotionally and psychologically to and through the next 24 hours and the next. And so we survive as opposed to thrive. We survive parked in neutral in the driveway of life, pretending we're on a highway.
How long did it take to finish your book?
It took about 12 years, actually.
Wow, it's a pretty long time.
12 years. We started in 2012, and then we published in 2022. So that's 12 years. Time is actually, which is an illusion. Space-time is now being proved to be an illusion. But yeah, so it is getting shorter, and
Right.
things are moving faster. But at the same time, I think it's important that we meditate, that we pray, that we take time to do things, because in fact there is no time. It is a construct, and when you deconstruct that by meditating, by praying, you will see what Yeshua and Muhammad and Buddha were all trying to teach us.
Right.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people wondering how they can buy your book in Taiwan and out of Taiwan.
Okay, so the book is available on Amazon, like every other book. It's available on Amazon, just putting Beyond Survival, Advantage Server, or Chester Connell, or Michael Nanton. It'll pop up.
People will be getting in a new version again.
Yes, an updated version.
An
updated version, and in smaller bites. And we're also going to get it translated into other languages, especially Chinese, Mandarin, because I want to reach out to my Taiwanese brothers and sisters.
So do you have anything for the audience and the readers?
Whatever I have to share is what I've learned from my father, my mother, and all my teachers. I want to say this. The words of the teachings of Yeshua, Christ, I think once we listen to those words, we will see that they are in alignment with all the other spiritual teachers, whether it's from the Jewish religion or from Islam, which means submission to Allah, submission to God, Vedic scriptures from the Hindus, from India. It's all the same message: love, light, life abundant, life eternal. And we need to forgive each other and to love each other.